Rolling. We're rolling. All right, so it's the holiday season. We're coming up on New Year's Eve, and today we're going to be preparing this beautiful 9.5 pound prime rib. You can see this is a prime grade standing rib roast, and we have this beautiful marbled fat in here. This is just amazing. This is a bone-in ribeye. You can see we have the rack of bones here. I had contemplated Frenching these bones, but I was looking at the fat content here, and there's really not a lot. We can get some really good meat out of this area because this is such a high grade piece of meat. What we're gonna be doing is preparing this to put back in the refrigerator overnight, and we're gonna be cooking this in the morning. I'm gonna be taking most of this fat cap off of here. Some people leave the fat cap, but we're not gonna be doing it in the oven. We're gonna be doing it out on the smoker. I'm gonna be removing this fat cap, and I'm going to be shaping it out. We're going to truss it up with a little bit of cooking twine, and we're going to season it up. We're going to be using a salt and pepper mixture, and then we're going to be using a beef mixture. You can add herbs and all kinds of stuff to this, but we're going to keep it fairly simple for this cook. We're going to really let this really great prime beef do the talking for this meal. It's going to be so good. I can't wait. I cannot wait to get into this. This is such a nice cut of meat. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is take off this fat cap. You can see the reason I'm going to be taking this fat cap off is there's a lot of this silver skin under here. That's stuff you don't want to eat. This is just a membrane over the muscle, and I'll show you what that looks like. You don't want to take off a lot of meat here, so leave your knife angled up, take it off like that, and you can see this is that real stringy stuff that nobody can bite through. So we're just going to discard that. And I'm going to do that to the whole top of this prime rib. This thick fat here, there's really no use in having that on there either. So I'm just going to be taking all that off. Use a nice sharp knife, and you can follow it right down. You can see in here, perfect example of how that sneaky silver skin gets under there. Oop. Let's take that right off. Now we want to get down to this beautiful marbled beef underneath here. And we're going to be seasoning this up so it all gets a nice sear to it. It all gets a little bit of smoke. If we left that silver skin on there, it's not going to absorb the smoke like we want it to. If you have a really good, high quality prime piece of beef, you're still going to have these ribbons of fat. That's okay. This here though, that's silver skin. That we want to take off. And this I'm just going to start layering down because there's another separation in the muscle in here, and we don't want to dig too deeply in. It's going to run right across. You'll see this hard fat. I'm going to be bringing layers off of here. We want to leave some of the fat just for shape and consistency, but we don't need all this. Nobody wants to eat all that. Now you could French these bones. You could cut it straight down here and across the back, and then hollow out the meat from the bones on there. We don't need to do that with this one because we don't have an excessive amount of fat. It's good to do this part while it's still a little cold. You can see the fat is just sort of shaving off. That's awesome. Okay, this is a good example right here of what I was talking about earlier. See how this is coming away, and there's this silver skin underneath? So take all this top yuck off. And once we get under here, this is where we have some work to do. You can see this shiny silver skin. Get all that stuff off of there. This is what a lot of people will leave on their meat because they're trying to leave that fat cap on. This isn't a brisket. This is a beautiful, delicate piece of meat, as big as it is. It's a beautiful piece of prime beef, and we want to get into the meat. Getting a little bit of the meat there. I don't want to do that. Just want to stay on the fat here. Beautiful. And this is that ribbon I was talking about earlier. So we want to get under the silver skin. And you can do as much or as little work on this as you want. I want to clean it up so there's nothing foreign in there that we don't want to eat. Take your time with it if you need to. You don't have to rush through this. We're preparing this the day before because we really want the salt to permeate into this meat. So we have a little bit of time here. A little bit more silver skin up top here. That hard fat, no use for that. We do want to maintain some structural integrity of the meat though. So try and keep it the proper shape while you're doing this. So now that we have this all nice and trimmed up, we're gonna truss with a little bit of cooking twine. Now the reason we would truss it is because you can see as it warms up, it starts to flatten out a bit. And we don't want that to happen because once we put it in the cooker, if this flattens out, it's not gonna be that really nice rounded piece of beef. Now this is where Frenching the bone can really come in handy because you can put your trusses right in between the bone. Since we're not doing that this time, we are going to go right in between the bone, right where the meat is. Lay it underneath, bring it around. You wanna make sure it's pretty straight around there. And now the way that you tighten down cooking twine is you wanna wrap it around twice or 3 times and then pull it. And that's gonna hold it there for a second while you bring this up and tie it off. Boom, just like that. You can double knot it if you'd like. And then take your excess and go ahead and cut that right off. So that's a truss fall. All right, let's do it again. We're gonna do this in between each of the bones. And this is to keep that integrity of the meat. Again, don't be afraid to double up your string if you have some smaller cooking twine. And we're trying to keep this round. That's the whole purpose of this. Trying to keep this meat nice and round. So I'm going to take this around twice, cinch it down, see how it pulls that up. Boom. Tie it off again. And cut away the excess. Boop! Try and keep these strings even. We're going to do the same thing here, twice around. Cinch it up, pretty tight. Oop, I don't know what I'm doing there. I want to make the bow. Whoop, and double knot. Cut away the excess. You can see we got it pretty tight through here. You can put other ones on the ends, but it's not really needed. Really what this is doing is on this side of the meat, we're going to try and keep the eye of the roast pretty much circular. You don't want that to flatten out. It'll cook uneven. You want to keep this nice and circular. So this is the eye. This is the spinalis dorsi, which is the ribeye cap. And if you think about this hunk of meat, the whole thing is a standing rib roast. What this means is these are 4 gigantic 1.5 pound or more 2-pound ribeye steaks. You can see here, this is your typical cowboy ribeye. If you have the bone in, you have your eye of the round, the loin in there, and then you have the spinalis around it. That's the most delicious part. This is gonna be absolutely delicious. Let's get some seasoning on here. We're gonna start with some kosher salt. This is just basic kosher salt. We're gonna be putting a pretty liberal dose on here. Now this is going to be more salt than you think it should be, but you have to think if this was each a steak, you're only really seasoning the outside of it. You're not seasoning the side like you would here on the roast itself. So give it a nice dose of salt. You really want this to dry brine. You want the salt to work its way into the meat so that you have delicious flavor. I'm using kosher salt, coarse ground kosher salt. You don't want to use that fine ground stuff. It's going to be too much on there. The bones don't really matter. I'm not worried about that. So these bones we're going to be cutting off before we slice the meat. We're keeping it in there for structural integrity, a little bit of insulation. When we're cooking it, we're going to be cooking it bone side down just to let that heat hit on the bone. A lot of people say it adds flavor. I don't know about all that. I don't know that it adds flavor. I do know that it adds insulation and it cooks really well. I like to cook it bone in. It's a little bit more expensive, but that's okay. All right, we're going to be adding some coarse ground black pepper now. You can go ahead and grind your own. Pepper's always better when it's fresh ground. This is a brand new thing of coarse ground black pepper, so we're just going to be adding some of this on here. Quite a bit, just like the salt. Yo, you like that? Getting it all over the place, but that's okay. I'm gonna dredge this through here. Trying to do it all with one hand so I keep my other hand clean. You can see that's perfect. All right, that's awesome for salt and pepper. Now I'm going to leave this just the way that it is. I'm going to be putting it into my pan here, bone side down, perfect fit. And we're gonna be putting this uncovered into the refrigerator. You can cover it in cheesecloth. We're gonna be cooking this in the morning, so I'm not too worried about anything bad happening to it. We're just gonna put it uncovered, let it dry brine. Make sure you have it in a nice deep pan like this so it catches any of the juices that the salt is gonna pull out of there. Tomorrow, we're gonna be adding one more seasoning, and it's gonna be this burnt beef rub. This is an awesome rub for beef, and I think it's gonna add a lot of delicious flavors on here, a lot of herbs and different types of flavors from here, so it's perfect. We're gonna go put this in the refrigerator, and then we'll see it in the morning.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. All right, so it's day 2, and we've got our meat that's resting. The chill is off of it now. It's starting to loosen up a bit, and you can see this really nice color and this really nice bark that we're already starting on here. The salt and the pepper dried out the outside of the meat a little bit, and that's gonna create a really nice crust around the outside. We're gonna add a few more flavors here. First, I'm gonna put this beef rub on. We're not gonna go super crazy with it, but just a nice layer here, just to add some more flavor to it. Now this beef rub has tons of great herbs and seasonings in it, and it's really just gonna boost this up. So we had this in the refrigerator about 18 hours or so, just letting that salt and pepper do its work. And it looks perfect. It's coming along really well. So now that we got that one on, we're gonna add some of this tri-tip seasoning as well, just for a little bit more crunch, a little bit more onion, garlic, and a little zap to it as well. Not too much, of course. This is gonna add that last extra flair that's gonna be absolutely awesome on this prime rib. Very chunky rub mixture here. This one's super good on all kinds of cuts of beef. So this is fully seasoned now. We are going to take this out to the kamado smoker, but first let's go get it fired up. Okay, so we haven't really talked much lately about the charcoal here in the kamado. So just as a refresher, I have this kick ash basket in here, which comes in really handy when you're shaking off any ash and cleaning out your grill. What I like to do if I'm doing a low and slow cook, or honestly any cook, I'm gonna fill this thing up pretty much to the top of the basket with this awesome lump charcoal. This is Fogo Super Premium. I have a couple tumbleweed starters in there, and they're getting the fire going. These are gonna burn for a little bit. They're gonna catch the coals on fire. As soon as they go out, I'm gonna close this lid down and bring it up to temp. We're gonna be running it between 250 and 275 degrees today, more like 275. So I'm gonna wanna get this closed down fairly quickly. We don't wanna get all of the ash going. I'm also gonna throw a couple of chunks of smoking wood on here. So when we come back out to do that, we'll show you how we put the wood on. So we got some really good flow coming out of the top here. As soon as this comes up to 200 degrees, we're gonna put our smoking wood on, we're gonna put our deflector plate in, and then we're gonna make sure that we level it out at 250 to 275. Okay, so we actually made it up to about 225 here. I wanna get my wood on, and you can see we've got a nice little roaring fire. We have one piece of pecan wood. I wanna get that caught. And we have a nice piece of cherry wood as well. We're gonna get our deflector plate in. And we're gonna put our grill grates on top. Okay, I'm gonna put my internal probe on over one of these blocks right here, so we don't have to worry so much about the direct heat hitting it, but rather getting the ambient temperature. We're gonna be putting our roast right over here. So let's close this down and dial it in. Okay, so we've got it right at about 250 right now. We're gonna put the meat on. I'm gonna be putting it bone side down right here in the middle of the grill. And we wanna just keep this between 250, 275, more around the 275 mark. And we're gonna give it 15 minutes per pound and then come back and check on it. I'm gonna put this probe in about an hour, and then we're gonna start monitoring the internal temperature of the meat. Okay, so now we're gonna be preparing some shrimp to go with our prime rib. These are the 15 to 20 count, I think, or 15 to 18 count, something like that. They're nice, big, fat, juicy shrimp. And I got the easy peel shrimp because I didn't feel like deveining them. I wanted this to be a nice, easy side dish to have. So all we're gonna be doing is taking them right down to this final knuckle here. We're leaving the tail on, and we're taking all the rest of the shell off. We're putting it here in this bag. I like keeping the original wrapping for the shrimp to put the shells into, so I can double bag them when I throw them in the trash. This can get really smelly. It can invite pests into your trash if you don't wrap it up tight. So I double bag it, then I put it in a third bag, tie it all up nice and tight, just to try and stave off any pests outside. Once I have it peeled down to here, I'm just tossing it in a bowl, and we're gonna marinate them, season them up a little, and then we're gonna grill them. Okay, so now we're just gonna be marinating our shrimp. I waited a little while. I only wanted to marinate them between 60 and 90 minutes because with a citrus marinade or something with citrus in it, you can kind of toughen up the shrimp if it goes too long. So I just wanted to marinate them for about 60 minutes. I'm using this Smoke on Wheels BBQ Marinade. It has citrus and garlic and things like that in there. It's absolutely awesome. Olive oil, it's a perfect thing for pretty much any type of barbecue like this. You can use it on shrimp, fish, chicken. So I'm just gonna use the whole bottle in here. Give it a little mix. So I'm gonna let this sit in the refrigerator for about an hour, and then I'm gonna use these skewers, and I'm going to, because they're the flat style skewer, see the flat one? The shrimp won't turn on those. And we're just gonna skewer them up and grill them off after we put a little of this fin feather rub on there. So perfect, looks good, smells good. Let's do this, we're going in the fridge. Okay, so we cranked this up to about 300 degrees. It wasn't running quite as quickly as we wanted it to. We're gonna open this up here and take a look. Nice, we got some really great crust building there. This is looking awesome. Getting a little pull away from the bone here. We're gonna be separating these bones when we are gonna carve this, but this is going along awesome. Our internal temp is nearing 80 degrees, so we're gonna just let this ride, and it should be maybe another hour, and we'll come back out and take a look at it. So now we're gonna be skewering these shrimp. They've been about an hour in the marinade, so I'm gonna take these, and we wanna poke them right through the middle, and then right in front of the tail. Make them all go the same way. You want to try and get right through the middle of that meat. The tail's a little bit more tricky because these are really big skewers, but you can see they don't turn when you flip the skewer. I think we can get 5 on there. Just like that. Ooh, they're cold. We'll cook it down this way, we'll flip it, we'll cook the other side, but it'll be a very quick cook. Now that we got these skewered up, we're going to be adding a little bit of this fin feather. This is really great stuff. It's got a little bit more citrus, a little bit more garlic, and this is from Plowboys. We're just going to be adding a nice light dusting on here for a little bit more zap. You can't have enough zap. Let's get those flipped. And the other side. Now we're going to let these chill out for a little bit while the prime rib finishes up. As soon as we take the prime rib off of there, we're going to let it rest for a little bit. And while it's resting, we're going to crank the kamado grill up super hot. We're going to cook these up. Then we're going to bring the prime rib back out, and we're going to sear up all the sides. So we've had this running at about 300 to 305 degrees for the last hour and a half, and we are getting right where we want it. I want this prime rib at medium rare. You want to pull it off with 5 to 10 degrees to carry over. Now medium rare for a prime rib is between 125 and 130 degrees. We want to pull it off 5 to 10 degrees prior to that. Right now we're running at 117 degrees by this probe. Let's check it out. Okay, so we're going to check right in the middle here. We want to pull this. We're right at 120. That's a little bit high. I wanted to take it off at 118. 117, but that's perfect. We're gonna transfer this into the tray and we're gonna let that rest for 30 minutes minimum. Now, over here, we are going to get this out of here. Now be very careful, I have cotton inserts. It's under these gloves so I can handle hot stuff. What I'm doing right now is cranking this heat up. And I want this coal to get super hot. We want it to get to 500-600 degrees so we can start searing things. We're gonna be cooking our shrimp on here. We're gonna do a quick sear on them. And then once this prime rib is nice and rested, we're going to sear that as well. So I'm cranking this open. I'm gonna crank open the top as well and get it going nice and hot. Okay, so we brought this in. This is looking awesome. You have a lot of nice juices. It smells, oh, it smells so good.
It smells so good.
It really does. This is gonna be awesome. So I just wanna loosely tent a little bit of foil over here. Sorry if that's loud. Now I'm not tightening it up. I'm just loosely tenting it. We don't wanna trap steam in there. We want to allow the steam to come out, but we also want to sort of insulate it. Let that just chill out. We'll give it a half hour. We'll take this off at 7 o'clock. Okay, we're going to be cooking these shrimp now. This is going to be a pretty fast cook. We have this thing piping hot. All right, we're going to let those cook for a couple of minutes. So these have been on about a minute. We're gonna flip these suckers. Now we're just trying to get a little bit of char on there and a little bit of pink. Look at that. That's a little too much, but that's okay. Let it go for another minute and these will be done. These are looking really good. That's about all we want to do on these. Let's take them off. Couple more. All right, let's let those go for a minute. How are we doing? Another minute, or not minute, but another 30 seconds or so. Let's see. Oh, that's good char. Let's flip them. Close it down just for a second. Okay. Oh yeah, that's looking good. We'll keep this going for the sear on the prime rib. So we've got this sucker roasting hot. And now we're going to sear the rested prime rib. And I'm leaving the top open for this. I don't want to cook the internals anymore. I just want to get a nice sear on the meat and the fat.
That looks so good.
Getting a little warm. Bones to get bit. I'm going to turn this around. Now I'm using these grill grates because I don't want to super overcook the fat on here. I just want a nice Maillard reaction. I want a nice crust, but I don't want to overdo it. That's looking almost perfect. Whew, that's warm. No! Saved it.
No one will ever know.
No one will ever know. All right, let's flip it.
That is some thick meat.
I love that these bones exposed I'm just gonna cut these right off and have this whole roast just to slice up. Oh yeah. All right. Easy does it. Let's see. That is all she wrote. This prime rib smells and looks fantastic. I couldn't be happier with how this looks on the outside, but we still need to see what it looks like on the inside. We're gonna go ahead and cut this up now. All right, first things first. We have a bone-in ribeye here, so we need to cut these bones off. We also have some strings that we trussed this thing up with, and you can see they did their job. They held this in perfect circumference, in a perfect shape. It just looks amazing. If it tastes half as good as it looks, we're in for a pretty big treat. So, because we're cutting the bones off, we don't really have to worry about snipping each individual string. We're just gonna come right down here. Now to cut these bones, you just wanna cut right behind them and sort of follow them through. Use a nice sharp knife and sort of follow them right around. And at the end there's a little knuckle. You just wanna put it there. Then you have a place to set it. Now you wanna pull these strings off. They're gonna be pretty deeply embedded in there. Just take those right off. Look at the dogs. They're into it. They are into it. Moment of truth is the dead center. So I'm gonna cut right into this, and we're seeing it for the first time together. Okay. Oh yeah. Man. So juicy. The smell coming off of it is amazing. This is gonna be killer. This is gonna be so good. It's a couple degrees more than I like it. I like a medium rare, but everyone else in this house likes about between a medium rare and a medium, so I think we're gonna be just fine. It looks perfect. Slice a nice fatty for Jared. And for anyone that likes it a little bit more well done, we will get it off of this piece here.
Look at the dogs.
I know. Oh man. And then let's do some thinner cuts for anyone who doesn't want so much. We'll just do a couple. Boop. One more here. Absolutely awesome. Look at those. I mean, look at that. Looks incredible. It means nothing until we taste it. So let's give this sucker a taste right out of the middle. Right there. And I want a little bit of the top. It's melt in your mouth, tender. So good. The juiciness on that prime beef is unreal. It is so good. Man, the flavors are perfect, spot on. That fatty piece is where it's at. All the flavor hides in the fat. That's what they tell me. Oh, incredible. Between the shrimp and this prime rib, we're gonna have an awesome New Year's Eve meal. Okay, we're gonna go eat this. We're gonna go sit it on the table and eat it. Give this recipe a try. It's incredible. I love it. Do it exactly this way and you won't be disappointed.
Yes.